Now, get some sleep, said Mrs. Sowerberry. You don't mind sleeping down in the shop, do you?
There is now here else to sleep in our house.
Oliver was alone in a strange, dark room, surrounded by unfinished coffins. It was not much better than the room he had slept in at the workhouse.
It was not easy for him to sleep. The next morning, Oliver woke up to the sound of someone kicking the shop door.
Oliver opened it and saw a tall boy with a red nose eating some bread. "Hello, I'm Noah Claypole," he said. "You are from the workhouse, aren't you?" He continued walking into the shop, as if he lived there. "I help Mr. Sowerberry. You do what I say, workhouse boy."
"Now, open the shutters," he ordered, giving Oliver a small kick to make sure he knew who was the master.
Mrs. Sowerberry called and asked Noah to sit by the fire to have some breakfast.
She gave Oliver a little bread and told him to eat it down below. It was freezing cold there. "Why can't I have a good breakfast like Noah?" he asked.
But there was no one there to hear him. For the next few months, Oliver worked with Mr. Sowerberry.
He did not like the work, but Mr. Sowerberry seemed pleased with him. This, however, did not please Noah Claypole, who was told to work inside when Oliver went out with Mr. Sowerberry. One day after work, the two boys were alone in the shop. "What happened to your mother, workhouse boy?" said Noah.
Oliver said quietly, "The nurse said she died of a broken heart. I heard she died in the workhouse because she was no good at anything," laughed Noah.
"What did you say?" cried Oliver, feeling both ashamed and angry.
"I heard that if she hadn't died, they would have punished her," Noah cried unkindly. Oliver stood up and started to hit Noah hard.
"Help!" shouted Noah. "He is killing me." Mr. and Mrs. Sowerberry ran in and pulled Oliver away from Noah.
help me lock him in here, they said to Noah. They pulled Oliver into a dark cellar and locked the door.
You poor boy, Mrs. Sowerberry said to Noah. We must get Mr. Bumble at once.
When Mr. Bumble heard what had happened, he hurried to Mr. Sowerberry's house and knocked on the door to the cellar.
Oliver, do you know who is speaking? He called loudly. Yes, said Oliver. Aren't you afraid, Oliver? He continued in a menacing voice. No, Mr. Bumble looked at Mr. Sowerberry in surprise. I understand the problem, said Mr. Bumble. You have given him too much meat, Mrs. Sowerberry. You have been too kind to him. Leave him in this cellar without food for a few days, then feed him only soup, he advised. That night, in the cold cellar, Oliver tried to cry himself to sleep. Yet again. But he felt too angry to sleep.
When the house was quiet, he went to the door and realized it was not locked.
Until it was just light and quietly opened the door. No one was awake, and it was easy to leave the house without anyone realizing. He knew he could not stay in that place any longer. His life was unbearable. It was time for him to run away.